The future we talked about at the beginning of the season is now.
Intuition, internal drive. Whatever you do, make sure you do you.
Remember that one time the internet called and said your religion was dying? Yeah, it left a message again. You should probably call it back.
What do we know anyway?
A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones.
Welcome to the Epoch Podcast, our weekly dose of mental foreplay. My name is Matt.
I'm Jen.
I'm Austin.
I'm Christina.
And I'm David.
And this week is the season finale.
Dun, dun, dun.
It sounds big. I mean, I hope we deliver here. We're going back talking about things that we talked about already. That sounds super exciting. But
Super.
So I've talked about these things we've already talked about, but we're revisiting them. Maybe that's more a fun way to say it. And Tina, I know you wanted to revisit things first.
Well, so it's not just like we're trying to rehash things. It's like we had some other thoughts after the fact. Like, for example, or like products we reviewed. For example, on one of the episodes, one of the mostly monthly episodes, I reviewed some hangers that I was recommending that you could use for pants. And I had been using it for pants for myself, but I since decided that it's just not as strong for pants as I would want, or as I think you would want. So I would use it like for tank tops or something like that. So that's just a little note there. Another one that I wanted to mention was on episode 15. It was Lemon Leadership. And we stop it, Matt. We talked about how it seemed like the book was like, I don't know, a little bit lopsided, and the quizzes were lopsided and stuff. And so I actually went and made my own quiz for it with the help of some of the notes that David made and stuff. So if you want to check that out, that, you know, it could be helpful. I don't know. I had my brother, who is the one that introduced me to the test, take it, and he thought it was pretty good. So
Where
you can try it out.
Where can we?
Oh, it's on our site, but I'll put it in the I'll put a link in the
What's our
episode
site?
notes. And then
plug for our site here.
Let's not.
And we also have an Etsy shop. And
but that's not like a discussion necessarily. What do you want to discuss something?
Well,
about
I mean, we took your recommendation. Jen ordered the hangers, and we got those hangers. And I was like, "What are these? Hangers for tank tops?
Are you kidding me?
They're not hangers for pants."
That's why you were laughing so hard. Why didn't you say anything about it?
Because I just made that up.
Dark.
We don't hang up our pants in this house. We fold them.
I like hanging them up because I don't know. I like to be able to see all my stuff and access it easily. And they do work for pants, like for leggings and stuff like that. Just not for like heavier pants. I don't know. They were working fine, but Micaiah was coming along and pulling them down, and it was just annoying.
How are these pants going to learn how to hang if these hangers need to be at least 2-3 times as large?
Just tighter clips.
Okay.
That's all.
I appreciate.
Zoolander references. I mean.
All right. So then the last little comment that I have was on episode 35, which was about gender and sexual identity and stuff like that. And my conclusion on there was kind of like that if you aren't part of someone's life, like you're not on that level with them that you have anything to speak into their life, really, that just love them, period, and don't worry about that part of their life or whatever. But I thought about it pretty much right after the episode that
you should actually hate them.
Love is overrated. Yeah.
no,
Just go ahead and hate them.
just that, like how Jesus did with people, he would get like downloads about people, and so he could speak into their life without necessarily being like in their life with a huge history or something like that. So I just thought, well, so there is room for that kind of thing if you're connected and getting like insight and revelation into stuff, that you can speak into people's lives then in that way. And not, obviously, that doesn't mean don't love them. It just means you don't just have to keep your mouth shut or whatever. I don't know.
I think there still always should be a filter of love.
Oh, totally. Like, don't just, I see this about you or something like that. No, but Anyway, that was just my caveat, or I don't know what you want to call it, after the episode thoughts. So those are all my quick thoughts.
Yeah.
What are your longer thoughts?
Yeah.
I only have one episode. I mean, we all, I think, have one episode that we had like a little bit more like discussion thoughts about.
What would that be?
The one that I pulled up for that was episode 27, which was about honesty and vulnerability. And so I just kind of went through to try to figure out what episode to do. I was just kind of looking at some different, like some of the bullet points and stuff like that. And then we have actually access to the transcript. So I was scanning through there, and I saw in one part, Matt mentioned that he thought initially like he was a really honest person. And then he realized that he was full of shit when he talked to himself.
Family show here.
What the fuck? When did it become a family show?
I'm so confused.
We didn't check the box for podcasts that said this has explicit content. Okay.
Sorry.
But it's
Well, we have
suggestive,
to.
right?
I don't know.
Probably
Suggest all the time.
Yeah, I feel like.
Heavy
Actually,
hitting
we
and
did.
whatnot.
I set that up,
Okay.
and we did check
Oh,
that box.
Okay, good.
Mom, what does
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Opens up browser to make sure box has been checked.
Back to Matt talking shit. Tina, elaborate.
Yeah, so there was that. I'm not sure how to broach this exactly. If I should go off on that a little bit more, or explain a little bit of the other.
We
So
don't have to spend a whole lot of time on how I'm just like a dirty, dirty liar.
well, okay,
Set
so
the
what I was thinking on
stage.
that was, how did you get your quote unquote revelation that you were full of shit?
Oh, geez.
And and also, so like Austin mentioned, building stories in our minds that aren't really the full story, and how all the emotions we experience come from the construct we create. And so like those kind of things, I'm thinking like at what point, like what is the catalyst for you to realize those things about yourself? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, a little heads up on that one would have been good for me, but
We didn't have any sort of agreement about heads up. I don't know.
When did you find out that you're a big liar? I think when you hear somebody say that, everybody lies to themselves, and then that first initial voice that you hear internally is like, no, I don't. Like, well, hold on. Let's just explore, like, if everybody lies to themselves, like, how would I lie to myself? And then like, if it's possible, how would it look?
Mhm.
And that was when I began to see.
So basically just by self-reflection, but you had the catalyst of someone giving you that thought to think about, basically. Is that what you would
Sure.
say? Or
Yeah, it was Lauren Zander from the Zander group.
yeah,
the
I know.
Handel
I'm
group.
just, yeah.
I think there's a
But
lot.
if you, sorry, I was just going to say, if you just were going about your life and you didn't have that, you don't, like, would you have still, do you think, realized that you were full of shit?
Well, I guess maybe it's just the sheer amount of voices that I allow into my life as speakers that I enjoy and trust, and I try to learn about psychology and how people work and the stories we tell ourselves. I've been kind of immersing myself in the idea of stories for about a year now at least, and the idea that we all tell ourselves a story every single day, and that story begins from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. So if you begin to look at that story that you tell yourself, you begin to see where it's consistent, where it breaks down, and or just where it's not the story that you should be telling yourself at all. Maybe it's just filled with negativity, or maybe it's one that sells yourself short, or doesn't recognize the potential that you have, or I don't know, like just the idea, like when you wake up and the first thing in the morning, what do? Do you pull up your smartphone and then, I've got, Facebook notifications, and you begin to go down that rabbit hole maybe, or maybe you hop on Twitter just to see what's going on. And so instead of setting your mind for the day that you want to have, you begin to let other people tell you about the day that's happening. And so that story, for that day begins on a really weird note. And so that discipline to and be intentional about your day and be aware of the voices that you allow to speak into your life, whether directly into your life or indirectly into your life. I think is important. And I think just exploring that storyline narrative and the stories we tell ourselves, I think that would have got me there eventually.
Okay.
Matt, do you think you were less or more of a hero when you started being honest with yourself?
Oh man. I was more aware of the place of the hero's journey that I was in. Is that a cop-out answer?
Yes, it's absolutely cop-out answer. But the fact is we are all a hero in our own mind. Nobody makes decisions and reacts to things and develops opinions about other people or scenarios. Nobody does that thinking, I'm being a real idiot right now. Right? Everyone thinks they're the smartest one in the scenario. They're the one with the right perspective. They're the one that is most of us make ourselves heroes out of being victims because it's, we have a victim culture that says if I am the victim right now, I have the highest score in this scenario because you have wronged me and therefore I am now better than you because I'm not the wrongdoer. But and it's kind of that hero's failure thing that we kind of have begun to promote. For me, that whole episode on radical honesty and vulnerability, that it kind of illuminated some things that I'd already been doing in 2019, which has been being really honest with myself, really freaking honest with myself. And sure, I remain the hero of my story, but I am less and less the version of the hero that is like, I have done no wrong. I am perfect. I am stronger than everyone else, smarter than everyone else. I have better skills than everyone else. And as a matter of fact, everyone else owes me a thank you. That's kind of the version that I had, tongue in cheek, clearly, but, and more like, I've chosen a path. And I understand that a lot of people don't like the path I've chosen. And it's been more honest of like, no, nobody owes me a thank you. I'm the hero of my own life. I'm still not going to make a bunch of decisions that make me feel like shit. I'm going to make decisions that make me feel good about myself, make me feel strong. But it is a dream that I'm telling myself, as you say, when you wake up in the morning, everyone's telling themselves a narrative. And in that narrative, I am the hero. I'm just the hero to me. And I found that radical honesty allowed me to be more realistic with how other people were experiencing me. Because again, you're not going to wake up one day and just start being a villain on purpose. You're still going to think you're the hero, but radical honesty can at least give you a bit of a buffer towards realizing how you affect other people's lives. And so I'm both more of a hero and less of one. Says being honest with, I'm less of one in my eyes to the rest of the world, but I'm more of a hero to myself because I am being authentic. And so it's a double-edged sword when you start being honest with yourself. You can kind of look yourself in the mirror differently. You realize that you might be a douchebag to some people, but you also are being honest with yourself. You're being authentic to yourself, and it's kind of that. It's an interesting dynamic to walk a life of that kind of authenticity mixed with acceptance of your failures or the areas in which you challenge other people's existence. So I was just curious.
That kind of, I guess, speaks to one of the questions that I had was like, how do you decide who yourself is? Because Joni said something, let me see here. She mentioned letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we actually are. And my question with that was like, how do you decide who you actually are?
I don't think it's just this, and here I am, like, because if we were in that state of mind, then your chariot of fire would come and swoop you up and be gone. Like, it's this process, and it's, every day you wake up and you tell yourself who you are, what you're going to do, and every day you lay the groundwork of who who you are, who you're going to be, who you have been. And so to put yourself in this time continuum, while it's where we want to go in human nature, it's also very confining and putting yourself in a box.
So would you say then that you're kind of deciding who you are continuously, not necessarily being like, this is who I am, so I have to be true to it, but more like, this is who I'm deciding to be? Is that what you would say?
I mean, yeah, lately I've been feeling kind of stuck, and then I made this connection literally this morning, like, I'm stuck because I'm choosing to be. I'm stuck because I'm not using those resources. I have the choice. I have the control. It's up to me to make the change and not be stuck. And that's something that I could have told you 2 months ago, but like 2 days ago, I couldn't have told that to you. So I think it's just a journey.
Using the word supposed to be, I think, is an interesting choice. Supposed to be versus who you want to be. I think one of the things that sticks out in my mind is an old quote from Joe Rogan, but just the idea of how we, if we were to look at ourselves as the subject of a movie, for example, and the person that's not where they want to be, whether it's because the world's come crashing down around them or they've gotten trapped in the monotony of just bad decisions and feel like they can't do anything. But, in that movie, eventually, things turn around, just as story arcs go. And so, what would that character that you, I guess honor is not the right word, but the character that you admire, the character that you respect, what would they do? And then you can begin to work yourself to where you want to be. So who you're supposed to be, I think, is an interesting way to put it versus who you want to be.
I say that because I feel like some people think they have to be a certain way, like
sure,
based on, I don't know, either how they feel or how like experiences they've had or something. I don't know. And I feel like when I say supposed to, I guess I mean like when people feel like they're kind of like stuck as this person, but they probably don't think of it as stuck because it's just who they're embracing and they just want to be okay as who they quote unquote are. And I think a lot of times when people are in that way of thinking, they're not wanting to change probably. But they just kind of want to accept themselves where they are and want other people to accept them where they are too and stuff. And I don't know.
In this vein, I would add that there's very few things more annoying in life than to meet people who have this answer. Well, that's just who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it isn't about being an ass and then going, you know what? I just love who I am. I'm an ass, and you just need to deal with it.
Right.
Like it's the balance is a dance between who you really are, and you may be an ass, and who you wish you were, because there's nothing sadder. So there's nothing more annoying than someone, well, that's just who I am. There's nothing sadder than somebody who thinks they're something that they're not. Oh, I am super woke, and I am so patient and everything like that. And everyone else is like, oh my God, really? Like
What?
You have no clue that you are the antithesis of what you think you are. So radical honesty is not about being stuck and being a jerk, nor is it about lying to yourself about who you wish you were. So it is a dance between the two, and hopefully you're growing from who you are to who you want to be. But you can't know. It's it's the circle on the map at the mall that says you are here, right? Well, I want to go to Williams-Sonoma, but I'm at the entrance that's on the other side of the mall. I need to know where I'm at, how to get there. And I think a lot of people are dishonest with themselves about where they're at, and a lot of people are dishonest with themselves about where they're going. And radical honesty kind of exposes both ends of that spectrum, and hopefully then kind of draws it out into a journey. That would be the hope, I would say.
My question is like, I'm trying to formulate it here. How do you have a healthy idea, a healthy concept of where you are going? Because I was thinking about it as Christina was talking. I was like, well, you can go to a place where you can want to go to a place that's quote unquote too high, but is that such a thing? Is it good to have higher aims want to be this kind of person. I want to be, wake up at whatever and do 1,000,000 push-ups and then, get started on working and have an extremely productive day and be a great husband, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you draw the line, so to speak, or where do you say, okay, maybe let's just face it, you're never going to make it to the NBA, buddy?
Well, well, some of that though, what you were saying right now is stuff that you do as opposed to who you are, right? Like you could say, oh, I am a person who does this, but that's still, it's focusing on what you're doing somewhat. I think, I don't know. Maybe there's some differentiation there. I guess for myself, the main conclusion that I came up with for myself was that I feel like I appreciate the example of Jesus in the Bible, basically. I mean, that might sound like cheesy or whatever, but
brownie points for you,
right? But
The holiness.
it feels like it gives me a clear picture, or like a it doesn't necessarily feel like a realistic picture, but yet it is supposed to be. And there again, I said supposed, but I guess what I'm saying is that's what I guess I look at is who God says I am based on what I understand from the Bible. And therefore, if how I'm feeling or how I'm acting, I mean, obviously I need to take time to reflect on that in order to be able to recognize things, but if it's not matching up with what that quote unquote mirror of the Bible is showing me, or what Jesus' life is showing me, or whatever, then I feel like I'm not living who I truly am, I guess. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I identify with Jesus, or I want to identify with Jesus, basically.
Fair enough.
Cool.
Well, let's keep it in the same house there, David. You wanted to talk about biohacking.
I wanted to talk about the biohacking. Crap. Oh no, my notes. Where'd they go?
They go.
First and foremost, I started listening to the episode, and I'm going to quote Austin.
Yeah.
There's a kind of do-it-yourself biology where it's biotechnical social movement. This went from the transcript, and the transcript gets a little wonky sometimes. And which individuals and small organizations, I think it should have been in which individuals and small organizations study biology using the same methods as traditional research institutions. And then quoting Matt here, if I could speak today, I can break it down into 2 words. Just human optimization. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
That's fair.
That part does. The other part was kind of long and a
Yeah, I know. Well, basically the thought with the other one was the whole do-it-yourself biology.
Yeah.
And also the biotechnical social movement, which is basically, I guess, the concept of doing this stuff at home, doing the researching, doing the investigation of these different tools and things that you can do to optimize your body or optimize your health that normally would have been done by bigger organizations or bigger places with labs and stuff. And I think with the way that the internet is now, the access to information, I guess even access to tools and equipment, probably at a lower level maybe, but yeah, you can learn to do a lot of these things. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it was mostly because I've been kind of been steered towards, I want to say, improving my body, improving my health, realizing that that I need to learn how to eat. I need to learn how to exercise, when to exercise, and then this whole biohacking thing is a little bit of, okay, what things can I do that will improve those things, will improve the way that I eat, will improve the way that I exercise, and so on and so forth. So
I have an idea about
Go
the
for it.
biohacking. I think the biggest key to the biohacking in this case of what you're talking about is just doing it.
well, yeah,
You know a lot of things.
I know.
That's very true. I mean, just the idea of like,
Just do it. Stop talking about
at this point, I think it's over about a year and a half, a solid year and a half of me knowing things that I wasn't applying, and then I applied them, and my life's been radically better ever since. My knees and joints have been fantastic ever since. In that episode we talked about biohacking, I didn't personally want to get too much into the heavier side of biohacking. I'm trying to find it on Netflix right now. Netflix just had a fantastic docu-series on it, where they get into the home CRISPR gene editing kits.
Wow.
And the broader applications that they're doing as far as like pest control, or just the ability to manipulate genes for generations to come without necessarily doing it through like sperm and egg.
It's kind of freaky to think about, really.
You mean like live, like you say you inject yourself with something and then all of a sudden you sprout out, horns or something like that?
Like, I guess like, so the gene editing stuff, like, yeah, like if you wanted to, you ever seen those jacked rats that just have like huge muscles?
I've seen the cows that are like,
because they've manipulated things so that the body doesn't stop producing muscle; it just keeps bulking up.
Oh yeah.
Like our bodies have a design that like it doesn't just keep going; it doesn't go out of control. It keeps it where it thinks it needs to be. But you can get rid of that, and as such, you can edit genes like that. Now the CRISPR editing technology is relatively inexpensive, and so in that regard, like anybody could just.
Can you imagine like people doing it to their kids?
Can you go into what CRISPR is? Because I've heard a lot about CRISPR, but I don't know exactly.
Intelligently, not too far.
You just said like how that's something like, what is this? Hey China, I want a CRISPR toolkit for my home.
So in that docuseries I was referencing, one of the guys, he wanted he's a dog breeder, and he wanted to produce results that were specifically biohacking related, that nobody could deny they were biohacking related. So his quest was to create a bioluminescent dog.
Jellyfish, right?
Yeah, I think he was crossing with jellyfish. Yeah, something.
What
like
the
that.
heck?
Frankenstein things.
Right. So I mean, like,
he didn't get it right.
So
now they sting.
Yeah.
When they pet.
Obviously that. Yeah. Obviously that's an extreme. That's an extreme thing. But there's also another one of the cases in that docuseries is a child who's like, both parents have to have this gene for it to go bad, but his eyesight was just bad from birth and getting worse as he got older. It was purely a gene thing though. If you insert the right gene, boom, fixed. So
they did it, or
I think they at least did one eye. I think the second eye was scheduled.
Interesting.
Scheduled
as in like they were having it done?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't like a home.
However, the sad thing is, I just said that CRISPR technology is very inexpensive. When you get into the institutionalized side of this stuff, it's stupid. It's like $2 million. It's, hey, we'll do this eye for $750,000, and the other one, after that it will be another $750 or whatever it is. For people that had like spinal muscular degenerative issues, however you say that, it was like $350,000 a year for things that are not naturally that expensive. And it was so infuriating to listen to the pharmaceutical rep, for lack of a better word, I don't know what his actual title is, but just he was talking about, he's like, well, we don't want to talk about how much it costs to actually do this, but what is it worth? And how disgusting of a statement that is. Hey parent, how much is it worth to you for your child to walk?
Seriously.
Never mind that it costs us, $10,000 to do this. How much is it worth to you? So I love the idea that people
How much is your soul worth to you?
Oh, right.
Right.
But it's the idea that people don't have to necessarily
The thing is, I
rely
did
on something,
Yeah.
somebody that's going to take advantage of them to get something done. Now,
possibly, except I did remember from the episode I had seen that there were people that got fined for doing stuff to themselves, depending on what it was. I don't remember what it was exactly,
Fined?
but yeah,
What?
because they were malpractice, like they were, or not malpractice. They were practicing without a license or
But
whatever.
that doesn't matter because it's on yourself.
I think it. You'd think, right? But there was at least one case.
They're
of
still
that happening.
practicing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the law, you know.
But no,
So,
but
like,
see, hold
it
on
gets
though.
problematic.
But like, I can say
Yeah, but I can also go to a fake doctor and sign saying I give permission for this fake doctor. It doesn't matter. He is malpracticing because he doesn't have the credentials to do doctor stuff.
Sorry. Anyway, I cut you off. But
I'm curious about this because I'm under the impression that you that it's like if you advertise yourself as being some sort of authority in that regards,
it
that
wasn't
you
the
could
case.
get.
What I'm talking about, but
Well, yeah, I know that's not, but
so yeah, it's who knows.
that's crazy.
I think one of the interesting things about biohacking, and going back to the episode, is I think we probably talked a little bit about longevity. Maybe Dr. David Sinclair, some of the advancements in life extension that he had gone on. What's really cool to me is it's not just a few people that know about this anymore. I literally had a conversation with another parent at the elementary school that our kids go to about the brand of NMN that she uses. Like that's which is specifically used for life extension. So the idea that these are not just ideas that are too big to grasp and only graspable by a small minority, but just they're starting to spread, and people are becoming aware of the opportunity that they have to not have to wait for somebody else to help them have longer, richer life, but they can grab hold of those things themselves.
The crazy thing about this is it's still somewhat in a outlier area of our population. You have to know where to look for these things, and there are different people that say or do or promote different ideas or different products or different techniques, etc. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, what are you gonna follow? What are you gonna so yeah, and my question is like, what happens, or how does this get mainstream? And then like, and I think we had this conversation actually probably in the podcast itself, but like, how do you, when you get to the point of it being mainstream, then how do you sell this? Because in the same vein, that how do you sell to a parent, your child is sick and your child needs this technology to live, how much do you want to pay for it? It's the same idea here with life. Well, do you have the money to stay alive? You better save up, be good with your finances so that you don't die.
I feel like with anything, like with technology, it will get less expensive over time, obviously, but who knows? It depends on if they try to make regulations and control it and all that.
What Matt was saying, I mean, this whole idea of doing it, the CRISPR technology thing is not super expensive. It's just the person that supposedly knows how to do it. I mean, maybe when AI comes, or you can train a machine that'll be able to do that kind of, program a machine that'll be able to do that technique, and so you'll be able to, it won't be as expensive, but yeah, who knows? It's crazy. I guess to wrap my whole thing up was an idea, or I guess question. Let's see, where did I write this? Mainly, which is kind of funny because it kind of ties into what we were just talking about, but having found a distrust in myself towards doctors. I don't go to the doctor fairly often. Last year I did, and it was a little infuriating. He didn't really diagnose what I had, even though like 2 days later when I was going to the ER, they're like, oh yeah, I can see it right there. I had an abscess, and he said that he thought it was strep.
You did a strep test and knew it wasn't strep.
Yeah, but he said sometimes the strep test doesn't work.
Oh.
And so he gave me a
oh, that's right.
he didn't give me antibiotics, I don't think, but he did give me a steroid to take the inflammation down. And then it was just one dose, and then the next day it flared up like nobody's business. But you know, I keep thinking, okay, that we've come to the point of realizing that a lot of our health has to do with the way with our mind, with our emotions, with our subconscious and stuff like that. And so at what point does it make going to the doctor somewhat obsolete? You know what I mean? Because the doctor will not go deeper than the physical.
And the surface issue,
The
usually not the
doctors,
root even.
Yeah, and they'll treat the symptom. And so if they treat the symptom, who's to say it's not just going to come right back?
Well, usually it does.
So I don't know. That's where a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. That's where the verse ties into.
Somewhere.
That, you know, is it, are doctors going to be going into the psyche a lot more? And if so, you know, is a doctor going to have to go to school for 50 years before they can be a doctor?
I think for sure they're going to have to, you know, if they want to innovate.
Because I mean, if you think about it, like gee whiz, like even the placebo effect and everything. I mean, there's just so much that the mind controls in the body, that does it really make sense to have a field that just looks into one small part?
I think a specialist
of a whole,
probably mostly for certain things, you know.
A recent experience for me, I think really equals out here. Jen's car just had an issue last week.
Oh my God.
And I think in a lot of ways, many doctors operate as a car repairman or mechanic would look, and like, okay, this part's bad, we'll replace this part and everything's good again. Not looking at the body as an ecosystem that, you know, if you mess around with one thing, another thing is impacted or whatnot. You know, we took the car to a shop, or actually it was towed to a shop right from where the issue happened. And upon picking up the vehicle, after basically it amounted to $140 of a sensor cleaning and diagnostics, you know, like, they did have the car and they did do the work of trying to find things and whatnot. It immediately stalled out the instant Jen tried to drive it out of the lot. Like, didn't even get out of the parking spot. Now, I'm not saying the vehicle's perfect, but I went ahead and drove it the rest of the way home because I was kind of upset and I wanted to kind of see if I could troubleshoot this thing on the way. I went ahead and went to a auto parts store and spent $3.50 on some dry gas, and voila, at least for the next week, it was driving pretty good. I think in a lot of ways, you know, medical science is almost like a religion. You've got your Eastern medicine guys, your Western medicine guys, allopathic, holistic. Everybody's got their angle on it, their sect that they believe in. And they will poo-poo the heck out of any other sect that would think otherwise. If you can look at a doctor and know where they're coming from and just have that awareness that they are going to look at things from a certain angle and a certain angle only, that's where the value in visiting that doctor comes from. I recently went to a doctor for a checkup back in June. And I mean, this is maybe TMI for the internet, but I asked her for a testicular check because things weren't, didn't feel the way they'd always felt. And man, was she squirrely. Like I walked away with that, with a 5% confidence in her work. So,
but what do you do with that? I mean, it's just so. Yeah, I know it's literally like a mechanic.
Yeah.
Like you go to that shop, they're gonna overcharge you. To go to that shop, they're just talking BS most of the time. You come, you have some work done over there, and when you get home, you have to go over it and make sure it's a little crazy.
Our previous vehicle, my answer would be, well, I YouTubed everything.
Right.
How to do this transmission? YouTube. Here we go.
Well, and I think that's kind of the same with health to a certain degree, because a lot of times people are putting stuff out there that is not maybe conventional. But David, you talked a lot about the mind, but at the same time, a lot of it stems from our diet and all the chemicals we're putting in our bodies. And when we can fix that, then all of a sudden your chemicals are working better in your brain, and you can think clearly, and you can say, hey, like I experienced some doom and gloom, but now that my things are aligned, then, and you can kind of start thinking better. But I think a lot of it has to do with what we put in our bodies, whether it's natural versus not natural, and then our overall, I guess, culture of woe is me, everything sucks, and that kind of thing.
Well, speaking of what you put in your body, I didn't find this out until a month or so ago, but there's like no studies out there for diets for women specifically. They're just treated like a man. And so I can sit here and preach all the benefits of intermittent fasting that I've enjoyed, but it's very different for Jennifer when she experiences intermittent fasting. But yet the science says, we don't have time to test for women. We haven't even finished our testing for men yet. Right.
Well, and I think, a lot of people say, well, there's no difference, we're equals, but in that's like a social system.
I don't bleed every month.
But yeah, there are we are very different physically,
physiologically.
And the hormones that just we cycle through, and men cycle through them too. They're just
I don't bleed out my dick.
There you go.
Well,
that's a t-shirt.
Gracious.
Not yet, anyways.
Wait,
I think there's
bleeding or a shirt?
Is that right? There's a reason that they call it practicing medicine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Right, and our culture has basically, you put on a white coat, you're Jesus, right? Well, the doctor said, look, doctors are wrong a lot. On top of that, they might have a great diagnosis intellectually, but it doesn't take much to figure out that medicine, as much as they know, there's probably 5 times as much they don't know. They don't know why this happens. They don't know why that happens. They don't know why some people have this and some people have that. And when you do these things to this, and all of a sudden everything changes for that group of people, but not that group of people. Oh, wait, except there's that exception over there. There's literally so much going on in the human body and in the biological systems that any doctor, any professor, any company that kind of stands up and, this is the answer, this is how it works, you can find exception after exception after exception after exception. And that is kind of the point, is that the variety in humanity is so vast,
right,
that I don't know I don't know how long it will take before modern medicine and biology and genetic research and everything kind of understands all the nuances between what makes what diet is good for these people and what treatment is good for those people, and why are we allergic? Why am I allergic to this, and why are you allergic to that? And we don't know those answers. There's just so many things we don't know, and they're doing their best. I think it's not that they're not doing their best, because when they find out new things, they implement them, they test them, everything that. That doesn't bother me, that they're doing their best and sometimes it sucks. What bothers me is that they're doing their best and they think it's the full answer. They treat you and they treat the public like there's no other answers. We found the answer. Like, look, you guys are just practicing. Shut up. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for helping. But I'm going to go practice my spiritual intuition and do something against what you told me to do.
Yeah.
Right? You practice your thing, I'll practice my thing. We'll meet in the middle and see what happens. And I think that is a dynamic that could return to our culture regarding, the biological state of humanity, is realizing that there is so much we don't know. And the variety in humanity changes everything. And when you listen to anybody, whether it's a diet expert, a doctor, a naturopath, whatever, and when they say this is how it works and this is the right way, this is the right way to eat, this is the right thing to do, look, find the things that work for you, listen to your body, listen to your intuition. And yeah, I think surgeons and emergency rooms are freaking amazing. But as far as allopathic medicine and its approach to like long-term degenerative disease, forget it. They haven't figured out any more than the old witch doctors of the past. So that's my opinion.
And I think I'm going to go back to this point because, like, the stuff that you were mentioning is merely the physical thing. Like, if our bodies were machines, well, I mean, I guess they are to some extent, but we're not putting into the whole equation. Like, we're working with 3/4 of the equation, or maybe less.
Our bodies are machines, but they're animated by a mind.
Yeah, and like,
I'll submarine this thing further, man. They're communities. We are super organisms filled with billions of bacteria and all sorts of things. It's a community.
Yeah. But we're on health.com. There were a couple of I'm going to read this. Take cynicism, for example. A 2014 study published in the journal Neurology linked high levels of cynicism later in life, i.e. a general distrust of people and their motives, to a greater risk of dementia compared to those who were more trusting, even after accounting for other risk factors like age, sex, certain heart health markers, smoking status, and more. Hostility promotes stroke. Was there another one? Our thoughts and emotions have widespread effects on bodily processes like metabolism, hormone release, and immune function, Simon Thomas says. I don't know who that is, but
that's where I wanted to go next, is the idea of, like, I mentioned that Netflix docuseries, which is, I just found, is Unnatural Selection is what it's called.
Interesting.
It's, and it explores the human genome and DNA and sequencing, all that kind of stuff. Like, but what it doesn't do is get into epigenetics. And what you're talking about, David, is the idea of how much the environment that we create with this dome right here, with our brains and our hearts and the emotions that come out of them, the thoughts that are created by them, like how much that impacts the whole setup. And, we've got people on the site that we believe in their messages, whether it's, Dr. Bruce Lipton talking about the biology of belief, or maybe it's Dr. Leaf and her talking about how, her
Neuroscience?
Yeah, her neuroscience background, and how, how all that just impacts the DNA and how it expresses.
Yep.
So, yeah.
There's a business to be had there, but it'll be heavily regulated. Are there youpreneur options that are not heavily regulated?
Good segue.
Was it though?
I wanted to talk about the pros and the cons. And it was fun listening back to it. And I think the one thing that I kind of wanted to pull out is that there's a difference between, the youpreneur and the digital nomad, but they're all kind of the same. They're creating their own, workforce. They're doing what they want to do and making it work in a society that kind of is more of a, you need to go to work and you need to do these things. And the one thing that kind of stuck out to me is, I'm going pop culture with it. Yes. Selena Gomez just dropped some new music videos. And the thing that was kind of cool about it was that her music videos, one of them was solely recorded on an iPhone. And so she worked closely with, of course, that company, I guess. I'm not even gonna say it now. But the cool thing is that technology companies now are making it so easy for people to pick up a device, whether it's a camera, a tablet, an iPad, whatever, and create this digital masterpiece. And you really don't have to have any skills. You just pick up this template and plug it in. I know our kids a couple of years ago made movies, and they were at the time, I think, like 5 and 7 or whatever. They made like just taking pictures that we had taken on our device and put it into this template. And so I think partnerships where people who are in society, they're famous and they're making this like, look, you can do this yourself, makes it even more easier for someone maybe like myself to pick up a device and make a cool music video or whatever I want to do with my device.
I'm waiting on that one.
Yeah, we want to see that.
Do it.
Hit me, baby.
Sounds like Patreon content. Yeah.
No doubt.
But yeah, so, and I was just curious, because the conversation talked about Tina and David on how you guys are kind of living the dream right now. And I know we're kind of trying to making it work, needing some more tips, but I didn't know if anyone wanted to talk about their process since then, because that was episode 17. And
well,
I would number on now.
I would say, yeah, this is 36, I think.
So.
If we count it as an episode number, I don't know how that works with season recaps, but
Oh yeah.
I would not say we're living the dream per se, because it's not like this great, amazing, like super wealthy lifestyle at this point. But we're working towards that. Something that we have kind of gone towards since that episode, I don't think necessarily in conjunction with that episode, but we've started focusing more on learning the correct skills to create more passive income through a couple different avenues. And that's been really fun and interesting. We aren't super far into it yet, but that's kind of a direction that we're going in. And I think one of the biggest things, honestly, I guess here, I'll say this. Since that time, we have connected with a community of entrepreneurs and mentors. And we've realized 1,000% that is a huge key to moving forward in the kind of stuff that you want to do. It's so major. And so that would probably be my thought about all this stuff, is that connect with the right people and connect with the right mentors, connect with people who have done stuff before you, and it's going to cut your time so much, the struggle and all that stuff. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but those are the thoughts that I have initially.
Definitely. I think in the previous recording, it was talking a lot about we talked a lot of different about platforms and how to be like your own teacher, and kind of if you can talk about something, make a video and put it out there, and kind of double down on a niche and that kind of thing. So it's kind of fun. But
the other thing that I guess I'm going to put my 2 cents in here. Just do it. Stop talking about it and do it. Yeah. I know, like, strategies to make passive income or strategies to do stuff online are a dime a dozen, and they all work if you do them. And
I mean, to some extent, yeah, at least.
Well, I mean, I feel like
the plan works if you work the plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you define passive income?
So passive income. Oh, sorry. If you want to do it, you can.
Oh, I mean, I can, but it's basically passive. It's
define with the same word.
It's passive.
It's basically most of the time.
Like, passive means you don't do anything. You don't do anything.
Oh, is that what passive means? So. Okay, so basically, the majority of the time, you have to do work on the front end to set up the system, and once you get the system in place, then you basically just maintain it, and the maintenance is usually very minimal.
Is that what you guys are focusing on? Because when we did the episode the first time, it was youpreneurship, which is where you're focusing on your brand and you're marketing yourself and you're making yourself your own company. And digital nomad was kind of working from home, so you can come and go as you please, not necessarily having to be tied to one specific place or building or time.
Right. Yeah, that's still correct. I would say that's been some of the clarity that we got just in the last little while, is that, hey, guess what? We can go and work on this like sort of purposelessness, like, or not purposelessness, less purposeful work periodically while we build up a decent passive income, so then we can focus on some of the stuff that's more meaningful to us. So like some of the stuff that we're working on now is more product focused, and it's not like, ooh, our life goal to make a bunch of products, but it's the vehicle. And that's what the one guy talks about that we're learning some of the stuff through, is he says this kind of thing is a vehicle for you to do stuff that you care more about. And so so we would still work on our brand, but that's not our focus right now.
It's like your college work study, so you can get your...
Sure.
Yeah. Austin, did you want to chime in on anything?
I mean, it just for me, on the entrepreneur side of things, I agree with David and Christine. 2019 was a very challenging and interesting year, but 2020, my goal has been to also focus on that passive income. For me, with newagechristianity.org, I have a bit of a entrepreneur brand. I'm not slapping my name on it as much as I am, as some people might, but it is my voice by and large. I would like it to expand beyond my voice and become more of a thought form, but for now, it's something that I think I could, build into a better income through what I have to say, what I have to teach. And then, I'm also working on some other platforms, drop shipping sites, and, kind of focusing on those. It's kind of that entrepreneur and digital nomad. And if you can kind of get those things to be passive, then you set them up, and then all you do is maintain them. You can now, my goal is to have 4 streams of income in 2020.
Right.
And all of them being digital, all of them being passive in a way, which, you wake up every day, and if it's about maintaining one you've already built, so the build time is what, depending on what the build time can be a few days, it can be a couple of weeks, it can be a month, it can be a month or two, but eventually once it's built, you wake up and you just kind of touch each one of them passively, and you kind of make sure, if you got products to fulfill, you make sure you fulfill the orders and handle customer service. If you've got a weekly podcast to put out, you make sure you record it and edit it and put it out. Excuse me. And each one of them is kind of a little bit of touch and go here and there. That is the goal that I have for 2020, is to have an entirely digital, passive income for life. That's the life I want to live. And I think you can make a very, very good living doing that if you do it right.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Well, Austin, I know you wanted to talk about how your religion is shifting in this time. Is that, there we go there now.
Yeah, so we did an episode. I think it was the 5th episode we did was, hey, the internet called and it said your religion is dying. And with newagechristianity.org, it is something that I have the pulse on that. I am one of the people that is killing your religion through the internet. And it's since that episode, I have found my way into a community of other podcasters other Christian podcasters or ex-Christian podcasters, depending on how they would label themselves, who are essentially doing what they can to help other people on that journey to finding answers to questions. We all go to church. We have for a year. Many people have gone to church for years, asked questions, and been told, that we'll never understand it, or, they're given pat answers or whatever, and it just never really satisfied. But they clearly get the message that they should stop asking questions, and so they do. But their heart never is satisfied. And I think the church is just loaded with people that I would call New Age Christians. Not that they're obsessed with New Age as a religion, but that they're in this age of Aquarius of I listened back to that episode, and we kind of majored on the fact that we're coming into an age where spirituality is individual. The Moses on the mountain where everyone looks to one man and that man has a relationship with God, versus where every individual has a direct relationship with God. I even, in that episode, on the 5th episode, I kind of talked about, it's kind of like build your own religion. It's kind of build a bear, but build your own religion. And the idea of there's not a question that you can't find 50 answers to on the internet. There's not a question that you cannot, if you have not asked those questions via Google, then it's on you, right? If you're only asking your pastor or your friends, and you're not asking the world, and you're not Googling it and looking it up, then really you're just looking for approval. If you're really looking for growth, and you're looking for truth, and you're looking to dig into the things that you believe, the internet is available and is changing everything. And NAC is one of those resources. I've gotten connected with Reckless Pursuit, their podcast group. Also done Rumors of Grace. I've done an interview with them. I've got other podcasts I'm being engaged with. And then that whole group of Christian podcasters has created a group around kind of reinventing Christianity and looking to start doing annual live events. And so it is happening. The progression is more of, I don't have additional thoughts on that episode as much as here's an update, right? The update to that episode is that it is happening. It's going to keep happening. And if you're a Christian specifically, obviously people listening to this podcast are largely going to be connected with us in some way, some form. And so there's going to be a lot of Christians listening. There are other podcasts. There is movements towards kind of reinventing and revisiting what does Christianity look like in the digital age. And I think everyone on the Epoch, I've invited all of you to that particular podcast group on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I think you all joined it. There's a lot of consistent activity, and it's at least with the people I'm talking to, it is becoming more and more of a thing where we're going to create a network and start doing annual events and try to see if we can't develop an identity of some sort. None of us, we're not sure what it will be, but the internet has changed everything, and there's a generation of teachers and believers that have woken up to that. And so it's happening. And that's the good news is we were right. Episode number 5, we were right.
Nailed it.
I would say in relation to that, we also, I guess, expanded our, connections in that similar kind of way. And the business group that we're part of has similar thoughts about things in the sense that, they're like, missions is old. The way of doing missions is old. The way of doing church, they're very much like business is the way of changing the world. It's the way of the future. It's the way that, it's very interesting, yes, to see these tremors or whatever you want to call it in different avenues of life.
Disturbances in the force.
Yeah. So yeah, we've seen more evidence of that as well.
It's almost like we're going somewhere.
Ooh.
Well, maybe it's time to go around the circle and not just wrap up this episode, but wrap up the whole season.
Oh my gosh, right?
Wait, did we talk about everybody's topic? Did we talk about yours, Matt?
On the bright side, my 3 lined up with 3 that were already out there. So.
Oh, so you just kind of, interesting.
Here and there.
Interesting.
I thought you were trying to hijack mine a little bit.
Well, I didn't as much as I could have.
Yeah, really. You could go.
You talked about doing 1 million push-ups, and I set my goal for 10,000 this month.
Wow.
Holy cow.
10,000 for the month. Okay, let's divide that up.
It's like 350-ish.
350 a day? Is that all?
Yeah.
That all?
That's all.
Push-ups.
Well, I used to do, okay, I know that's a lot, but I'm just thinking because I used to do 350 sit-ups a day.
They're a little different.
Yeah, I know they're a lot different, but I wouldn't have guessed that I was doing 10,000 a month is all I'm saying.
No, I guess I just to tag on to that real quick. I mean, I also did something. This is kind of it's become my new annual thing for the Marine Corps birthday. I go out to the Columbia River over here, and I run in the river for 3 miles. And I the day after, I was like, man, like my feet are really sore. My calves are really sore. I was like, you know what? My calves are really sore last year after this thing. And it caused me to go down a rabbit hole because I've got Google. Like Austin said, hey, let's check this thing out. And turns out that barefoot running comes with its whole set of unique stressors and whatnot. And I've learned a whole lot about my body just through going out and running barefoot one time. So I've also learned a lot about doing push-ups every day. I wasn't happy with my upper body development. So I was like, you know what? I've tried everything else but this. Let's try this and just see what happens.
Oh boy.
Just
that makes me think I need to get back to my sit-ups.
I'm not, it's not been a month yet. It's been 10 days, but
Let's do it.
I guess I'm happy with the results, but not happy with the time investment. Because man,
so I think there was an interview with Muhammad Ali. Basically, the guy asked him how many sit-ups he did every day, and his answer was, "Well, I don't start counting until it starts to hurt."
No doubt.
So is it 350 after it starts hurting, or 350 from the beginning?
Well, it starts hurting after 3. So
Nice.
Wow.
Well, I'm gonna start the circle thing. And I think I think us going back and looking at what we wanted to pull out from this season is a great way to wrap it up. Because if you aren't reflecting back and researching and growing and learning more things from where you came from, then you can't really go forward and become the person that we've been talking about as part of the process, right? Learn, do, reflect, do it again. So it was fun to go back and listen, because I think I'm probably one of us, on maybe the only one on the podcast that doesn't listen because I say stupid things like iPad. And my voice is annoying. I don't know how you guys listen to me, but thank you for listening. And yeah, it's been good.
So I don't listen to our podcast either.
Nice.
Not because I think it's stupid, but because I'm literally this year.
I think my voice.
Oh, well, 2019 was one heck of a year. So it was more about time and energy and focusing on what I could. But I will say for me, this year and these episodes, there was a handful of episodes, let's say maybe we're on 36. So probably a third of them, a dozen of them, where we picked subjects that I hadn't ever taken the time to look at. And, one of our taglines that we developed, I think wasn't until maybe 10 episodes in where we started consistently saying conversations worth having.
I think it was a lot farther than that, but yeah.
Right. And that has been a lot of fun, because it is, we did one on LGBT, or the different sex, gender things, right? I don't even know what to call it, and but it's a conversation worth having.
Mm-hmm.
Biohacking, it's a conversation worth having. There's certain conversations I have all the time, obviously, about the future of spirituality and religion. I have conversations all the time about entrepreneurship and things like, and relationships and the love languages and everything. But conversations the other ones we had that I had never taken the time to kind of dig in a little bit. I've really appreciated being, because we're recording, because we have to do our research, I've appreciated kind of being given an opportunity or a reason to kind of go off my normal path, my normal beaten paths of things that I've thought about or taken time to listen to. So hopefully, in the same way that I've appreciated a handful of episodes in a different way than the others, that our audience has experienced pleasure in the variety.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of one of the points that we intended to kind of start out with, that we covered multiple subjects all the way from politics to religion to finances and technology and health and so on and so forth. So I think we accomplished that, and I've enjoyed it. And so hopefully you have too.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, that's for sure. I think we all are on the same page with that. And Jen, I don't find your voice annoying at all. I find my voice annoying, but I think honestly the only person probably right now who's listening to podcasts is Matt, because He's the one editing it. Thank you, Matt.
Nice job.
I don't have to.
I hate all your voices. No,
I know that. I shouldn't say I don't have to, but I don't have to edit the middle of the video anymore because I upload transcripts and use stuff that way. I really enjoyed listening to it while I was listening to it, but it just takes a lot of time. If I can just listen to it like on my little app on my phone while I'm doing something else, that's cool. But so yeah, I really enjoyed our conversations. I think we had a lot of good ones, and I think it was a really good idea, Jen, to do this recap. I think it's a fun thing to do, and I'm very interested to see where this podcast is going in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love being the last person because I generally
Don't have anything left to say.
Next season, David leads us off.
Next season, David says things first.
Oh, really?
No.
I don't know about that.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this podcast more for the camaraderie, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And this was always like something that I just love to do, just sitting around with friends and talking about a subject and hashing it out. And I will say that there were a couple of these that I did not do as much research as I should have in order to be able to be a productive participant of the conversation. But
that's the good part of the.
That's the good part. That's why we have 5 people on here right now. So
next year, David studies before the podcast.
For once.
We just always rely on Austin. He can BS through anything.
Austin is the BS machine.
BS or anything? Yeah, that's true. I pretty much. You caught me.
So yeah, I too am looking forward to next year. I have a good feeling about this.
Already there.
Oh.
Well, I agree that it has been a doozy of a year.
What is that? Is that like your radio announcer voice? Like, just a bit outside.
I think it's like, was it Dale and Tucker versus Evil or something like that? I don't know if you guys have seen that particular movie. It's a great comedy horror flick. I don't know.
The answer to any question, have we seen that movie, is probably no.
Nah.
Good chance it's a no.
But
Our children, yes.
Oh my word.
Not that one. But it's been fun sitting down with this crew. I think for me personally, the conversations are a great part of it, and not playing the part of a faux expert, but somebody who's just learning and digging into a subject has been fun. And doing it with my pals has been a good time. Jennifer and I moved cross country here, and then the Dillers are all over the place. So Austin, there's a few miles between you and us, and it's nice that in this digital age, to bring it back full circle here, that life in this digital age, we can all be in the same chat room, having a conversation worth having, a primer of sorts. I don't know, more buzzwords we threw around at the beginning of the season. But I love you guys a whole lot, and I'm looking forward to doing this again. It's gonna be fun. I think people can find our stuff at Epic Ideas is our social handle, and theepic.org, EPOCH. And we have a Patreon account with all sorts of fun stuff in it, courtesy of Tina. And what else did I forget? You can get hangers that are not good for pants, but maybe for tank tops on one of the links.
And leggings.
Leggings.
Socks. I don't know. There's lots of things, really.
Hang socks?
Not
Serious?
pants as much.
1920.
No, I do. No. I should have socks in a drawer. Are you kidding?
Hang up socks. Yeah. Peace.
Okay, bye.
See you in 2020.